So I can start now.
Yes. All right. So a brief introduction again. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this last session of Cokie's baking classes. We're so excited to have you lead us through these 4 weeks of baking. We're so grateful. And today we're going to do the vanilla cream pie. Take it away.
Okay. So the first thing I wanted to say for this one is that we don't actually make the whipped cream today. You guys would just have to make that on your own tomorrow because it has to cool down enough to put the whipped cream on it. So the first thing that I'll do is preheat the oven to 350. And while that's preheating, I'll start making the graham cracker crust.
Cokie, I have a question.
Yep.
When we do the whipped cream tomorrow, do we whip it cold or room temperature?
Cold.
Cold,
Like the
okay.
colder it is, the better.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be melting my butter in the microwave because that's easier for me for the graham cracker crust. So I'll be melting 1/3 cup of butter in the microwave. And this recipe is actually a little fast paced once we get into it because we're going to be like boiling milk. And then while we're boiling milk, we're going to be mixing something else. So, but this is the slow part, so it's fine. So now that that's in the microwave, I'm going to take my 1.5 cups of crushed graham crackers and put it into a bowl. So I've got my crushed graham crackers in a bowl, and now I'll add that 1/4 cup of sugar into the same bowl. And my butter is all melted, so I'm adding that into the same bowl with the sugar and the graham cracker crumbs. We're just making the crust right now. And I'll just be mixing that up until it forms the graham cracker crust that I want. And now I'll just be pressing that into my pie tin.
We're still making the crust, so we're good.
See us?
Where are we? I don't see us. Where are we? Share screen,
Oh.
hit share screen.
Start video.
I see you now. Hi.
Where? Hi, can someone hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear her. Unmute my audio.
We can hear you.
Oh, now we can hear.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good now?
Hi. We can hear you.
Perfect. Hi.
It's
Hello.
Joseph and Pam. Hey, Joseph.
Hi.
Oh, that's, is that,
Hi,
That's Sam.
Joseph.
Hello.
over here, over here.
Do the picture.
Hi.
Is that?
Okay, so I'm just at the part where I am pressing my graham cracker crust into the pie tin that I made. And once my oven's preheated, I'll stick it in the oven for 5 to 8 minutes.
Come here. No, just come here.
Let's get this to me.
Just for half.
Put the pie crust in here. This is measured.
I'll tell you why when you put your shirt on. Joseph? Hey.
Can you see him?
Peter. You see him right here?
Hi, Peter.
Aw, he's so sweet. All right, off to bacon.
You made your Hi, Peter. Peter, where are you?
I think maybe I think Mary's trying to talk to us, but we can't hear her.
Just because you don't want you.
Hi, David. How are you? What?
Come back.
Where is he?
He's coming back.
Hi, Peter.
There he is.
Make an awesome pie.
That's
very busy.
There's everything.
Okay, so mine is pretty much ready to go in the oven. I just have to wait a few more minutes for my oven to preheat. Is everyone else done with this step?
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. And for the rest of the recipe, when we actually make the custard, it's up to you guys if you want to do it along with me or if you want to just watch first, because as I said, it's like really fast paced with boiling the milk and stuff. So that one's up to you. Let's see. So the next thing I'll do now is that I'll just measure a few of the ingredients for the custard. So the first ingredient I'll measure is that I will put in the pot, I'll put 2 cups of milk and I'll sprinkle 1/3 cup of sugar, and I'm not going to mix it though. Oh, my oven's preheated, so I'll just put my graham cracker crust in. Got my timer on for 5 minutes. So I'm working on the custard now. As I said, I put the 2 cups of milk in the pot and I'm going to sprinkle over the 1/3 of a cup of sugar without mixing it. And I'm not gonna put that on the heat yet because I'm not gonna turn on the heat yet because I'm just gonna measure some more ingredients before I do that. So the next ingredient I will measure out separately in a little container is the 2 tablespoons of butter. And I forgot to write it on the recipe, but also a teaspoon of vanilla. That's just gonna go in this little container.
I'm sorry, where is the vanilla going?
In the same container as the butter, so it's just a little container.
The butter for the custard?
Yep, the 2 tablespoons of butter for the custard.
Oh, okay.
And we're just setting that aside. So because that actually goes in way later. So we're just setting it aside. And then I'm not gonna start boiling the milk that I put in the pot until my graham cracker crust is already out of the oven because I don't want to like get confused or leave it in too long, you know? So I'll just wait on that one. And another thing I can measure out for the custard right now is in my big mixing bowl, and it has to be heat safe because we're going to be pouring some boiling liquid into it later. So I have a stainless steel bowl. You guys can use like a glass one if it's heat safe. I'm going to measure out my 2 eggs and 1 egg yolk. Okay, so there in my mixing bowl is my 2 eggs and 1 egg yolk. I'm gonna put that to the side as well. So to the side, we have the butter and the vanilla, and we have the 2 eggs and the 1 egg yolk, just to the side. And then the last thing we're measuring out is the only remaining ingredients, which is the cornstarch and the other measure of sugar. So in another container, we'll do 1/3 cup of sugar and 1/3 cup of sifted cornstarch. Okay, so my graham cracker crust is almost out of the oven. And now I have all of my ingredients measured out for the whole thing, so I don't have to worry later. So the ingredients would be that pot with the milk and some sugar, this butter and vanilla, this sugar and cornstarch, and the 2 eggs and 1 egg yolk. So now I'm going to take my graham cracker crust out of the oven. And it looks like this, and it'll just take a few minutes to harden as it cools. So I'll just put it to the side. And we're done with the oven now, so we can turn that off. Okay. If anyone needs like extra time before I start actually making the custard, just let me know. Okay, so then I'll start making the custard. Got all my ingredients in front of me. I'm gonna start by bringing my milk and sugar over there to a boil without stirring it. Okay. And while that milk and sugar is coming to a boil, I'm going to take that cornstarch and sugar that I had put together, and I'm just gonna mix it up so that it's all evenly mixed. And then I'm just gonna put that back down, and I'm gonna work on this eggs, the 2 eggs and an egg yolk. I'm just gonna whisk that. And then I'm gonna put that cornstarch and sugar right in to the egg mixture. And mix that up. So at this point, the only ingredient I didn't put in yet was that butter and vanilla, because that's gonna be last. Just leave that to the side. So my milk is coming to a boil, so here comes the fast-paced part. Once my milk fully comes to a boil, I'm going to temper it into the egg mixture. So to do that, you're just pouring it slowly into the egg mixture while mixing it with a whisk. And you have to do it slowly or else it's gonna turn out like scrambled eggs. So you can either use like a soup ladle to ladle it in slowly, or if you have the wrist strength, which I don't, you can just pour the pot in slowly. I'm gonna just start off with a ladle. Once my milk's boiled, it's almost ready. Okay, so my milk is at a boil now. So I'm gonna use my ladle to ladle out some of the milk slowly into the egg mixture while I'm mixing it. So I'm actually gonna turn off the heat for the milk and ladle this in slowly while mixing with a whisk. You want to do it slowly so that you don't cook the eggs, because if you just dump it all in at once, the eggs are going to get cooked. Okay. I only have a little milk left in here, so I am going to pour it now with my, just pour it right over while whisking. So this is what it should look like. It doesn't have any lumps in it. And I'm just gonna pour it back into the pot and put the heat back on. All right. Put the heat back on. And I'm gonna bring this to a boil again, but and I'm also gonna mix it continuously while it's coming to a boil. You can either use your whisk or your spatula. I like to switch to my spatula for now and then go back to my whisk later. And it should thicken up now. And once it comes to a boil and it's thick and I've been mixing it the whole time, then I'm gonna take it off the heat and then that's when I'm gonna add that butter and vanilla. So that's in the end. So it's gonna look like custard soon, like it's almost done. It'll stick to your spatula a little bit like this. This is like the lumps of custard, kind of. And then now I'm gonna switch back to that whisk so it doesn't stay lumpy. I was just showing you how it looks too. Okay, mine's back to a boil, so I'm turning the heat off, taking it off the heat. This is what mine looks like right now. So it's a little bit lumpy, but it's not going to be once I put the butter in. Now that I took it off the heat, I'm going to immediately put in that butter and the vanilla that I set aside earlier. And I'm just going to whisk it until it's smooth. Then your custard's done. It's getting way smoother now, as you can see. It's not so lumpy anymore. Just needs to be whisked a little more. Yep, there's pretty much no more lumps. It's very smooth. So this is how it should turn out. And I'm just gonna pour this mixture into that graham cracker crust that I made.
Cokie, I have a question.
Yeah.
If you don't drink, I don't drink milk. Now I used milk to make this pie, but could I use almond milk or coconut milk or something instead?
I think I have never done it, but I think that it would definitely work because it's the cornstarch that thickens it. So you should be fine to use those kind of milks.
Okay, So it's not the fat in the milk that I need.
Nope.
Okay, great.
Okay. And then I'm just gonna smooth it out with my spatula. And then it just has to sit overnight, and then you'll be able to put whipped cream on it tomorrow. And I'm gonna cover the surface directly with plastic wrap, because if you don't do that, it's gonna form a skin. I'm pressing the plastic wrap into it so it doesn't form a skin. And then it's done. So Kim, is yours done?
Mine's done. And the
Yay.
custard's delicious. I licked the spoon.
Yay, I love custard. I could eat this without the pie crust.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you can see it there.
Oh, it looks good. Oh, it looks like Pam's is done too. Wow, that looks really good. Hers looks nice and smooth too. Mm. And I see someone licking the spoon too over there. Mm. And then alternatively, you could also have made this with a regular pie crust. I don't like it that way at all. Regular pie crust is just not sweet enough for me. But if you did make it with a regular pie crust, of course, you would have to just bake the pie crust alone first and then put the custard in.
I like graham cracker.
Hmm?
I like graham cracker crust. They're good.
Me too. They even, I know that they also have Oreo graham cracker crust, but that's too sweet. Have you tried that one?
No, no.
Yeah.
When everyone has theirs ready, maybe we can take another screenshot. Just give me 1 second. One, two, three. Yeah, that worked. Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay, well, that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for coming. Have a good day.